Everyone, thanks so much for joining us for another session of Converge 2025. As you may know, my name is Will with the RoboHead team, and I'm really excited about this next session. We're going to be joined by one of our customers, someone I've worked with both in RoboHead and in other tools for feels like forever. It's Marci Haber with Dyma Brands. Just real quick, Dyma Brands is a packaged goods company. If you eat relish or have ever had hot cocoa out of a packet, you have probably enjoyed some of the stuff that they're producing. So we're going to talk about how you can take advantage of the RoboHead Library, something that maybe you use now or maybe you've never even explored it before. So Marci, thanks so much for joining us. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself and the journey that you and Dyma have been on here?
Sure. Like you said, I've been an independent consultant with Dyma for many years, and I helped build out their entire process of digital asset library from the ground up. And my goal has always been to keep everything, all the artwork, documentation, approvals, photographs, organized and accurate so anybody on the team can find what they need. And I also set up all the templates and systems that made it very simple for everyone to go through the approval process. And it makes it much smoother and allows for less mistakes or errors.
Okay, awesome. So as we talk about, you mentioned the approval process. You also mentioned that source of truth for the all of the product assets, so the packaging, the beauty shots, things of that nature. So if we kind of back up before things were running smoothly, or as smoothly, obviously stuff was still getting done. But if we back up a little bit to when we were dealing with some challenges that you've overcome, can you talk a little bit about maybe what the main challenges were that you had to tackle in order to make this approval and now asset retrieval process run smoothly?
Sure. I will point out one of the biggest issues was cost. It cost us a lot of money doing redos.
Okay.
And so once it was explained to me when I came in, and approvals were everywhere. They were in emails, they were on servers, they were in folders, in files, but every version got lost and they could had no one place for any of the signed off artwork.
Okay,
No
gotcha.
one had a clear view where to find it, where it is. And after the approval, access was not consistent. It was very inconsistent, and the teams weren't sure which files were actually official.
Okay,
Now,
gotcha.
and then what we did was we centralized everything in RoboHead. It built visibility, version control, and searchability in the library tied directly to the final approved artwork. And that shift had created that trust within the company as being the trusted source of truth and boosted our productivity. And I'm not exaggerating, and cut rework by 90%.
90%. Wow, that's amazing. So to kind of snap back a little bit, it was, it wasn't just that the approval process was chaotic and it was hard to find stuff, but once you found the stuff, you weren't even sure that the stuff was the right stuff. So
Correct.
and this affected not just you and your designer, but it was the marketing and creative team and also the plants. Is that it was everyone
Yes.
like business wide?
Yes.
Okay.
Very accurate.
Awesome. So if we talk about, you mentioned kind of a single source. You landed on RoboHead, decided that was going to be the source, but how did you make that happen? What were the steps? What were kind of the problems in the process that you went after first, and how'd you kind of roll out this solution that has streamlined everything and cut errors by 90%, which is amazing. Kind of blows me away.
Well, first we started by mapping out the entire approval process from start to finish.
Okay.
And then I had rebuilt the path inside RoboHead to fit how the team works.
Okay.
And then I organized the library for clarity, speed, and truth. So simple and easy to navigate through, nothing is complicated, and it allows everything to move from reactive emails to proactive, and it's trackable. The workflow is clear, ownership, there's deadlines that are met, and the biggest key, version control signed off. So once the asset's approved, it flows directly into the library so someone can find what they need on the final version instantly.
I have no doubt about that. That's the thing.
No doubt, because it's truth. And you don't have a lot of people inputting that information. You keep it very tight
Okay.
from an admin perspective.
Okay, that makes sense. So you've got kind of a security check there that we're only so many like only so many folks, the right folks, are actually adding. Everyone else is just pulling what they need.
Correct.
Okay. So when you said you kind of mapped out the process for everyone, let's, obviously Dyma was around before RoboHead, and there were a lot of products out in the world. So let's start and kind of work backwards. If we start with the library, can you talk a little bit about how you built that out and what that looked like? What kind of made, yeah, just kind of walk me through that a little bit if you don't mind.
Well, it did take a few months for us to build out, test, and refine the system. That I will
Okay,
say was the biggest part of how we organized the existing assets and cleaning up the old versions to load them. So
gotcha.
you start at ground zero.
Okay,
That's what we had to do. And then we had to make sure that we had structure. If you open up one of our folders,
yeah,
the naming conventions were set and everything else had fallen into place. The consistency was critical.
okay.
So folders have documents, archives, photographs, and then the approved art is in the main folder.
Okay, gotcha. So we've kind of built this structure. So each primary folder is for an individual product. In this
Hmm.
case, it's some dipping sauce that you would have, and then
Correct.
within here you're going to have kind of the active current assets that are ready to be used, and this could be kind of a blown up version of the the packet. In this case, it could be the actual print sheet or printer's proof. And then, yeah, talk to me. Can you talk a little bit else about what all
Sure.
is in here and why folks might need it?
Now, we can also store our TIFF files for the press in
Okay.
this. We don't. We have another server that we do keep that on that's directly in the print shop, but it
Okay.
could be stored here also. And one thing I do want to point out that it's very important that you plan first and build second
Okay.
and know exactly how your team works before you design your folders and your workflow. And you have to test it with your master users before you can go to the next step.
Gotcha.
And that way you're able to keep it clean, flawless, and organized.
Okay.
And that's what creates the efficiency.
Okay. Perfect. Anything else kind of around these folders that yeah, do you want to talk a little bit about what's in each one, why you broke it up this way? You mentioned you broke it up this way because that's how the team works and what they needed, but can you elaborate on that a
Right.
bit for us?
Do you want to flip over to an actual project
Yeah,
and then show there, and then we come back to the artwork?
sure, if you want to. Yeah.
Okay, because if you open up a project, open up go to the top
Okay.
in the library. I'm sorry, go to it doesn't matter which one you pick because you're in the
Oh, just
beginning
any
process.
of these?
Yeah. Um, pending signed copy. Pick on that, click on that one.
Okay.
Okay, so go over to notes. And let's see, so that one does not have the documentation. It's in the master folder, which this happens to just be the case approval. We also have artwork approval, but they are consistent in the sense that the first five numbers
Mhm.
match up.
Okay.
So it's very easy to search and find exactly what you need. So if this was already in the library, you could search that 76110 and any project files, any art library files,
Mhm.
any notes, everything will pop up and it's nicely spelled out in the search, in your search. So it makes it very easy to follow through
Okay.
and make sure you have the right um, documentation. So
Okay.
if you go back over to the project itself,
Yeah.
I want to pick one that I know would have some other documentation.
Maybe the
If you
added to
go
library
to
one.
added to the library, nope, that one won't. Those are cases. Our cases don't have
Okay,
it.
gotcha.
I'm just looking for piece of art ready for review. Go up to the ready for review right there. Is that um And then, oh, that's another case. Right now, that's what we're working on. So I
Okay.
don't have a lot of artwork to show, but it is set up where the R&D puts in the files. Once R&D puts the files in, then the artwork is added, and then emails go out to all of the different areas that need to do the approval.
Okay,
Once
gotcha.
it's approved, then it's popped into the library.
Okay, excellent. Um, can we talk a little bit about you mentioned that this is really easy for the team. So, can you talk a little bit about why it's been so easy for them to adopt? Why has this worked and maybe other things in the past have been a challenge?
Well, the biggest takeaway has been consistency.
Okay.
The organization and the consistent way every single file is approved, and then where every single file lives in the library. And we do training every quarter, which is key because if you have updates or changes, I like to share that with the team so that they know what is going on and if they need to change anything. So that is very important. And I try to do my training either on site or through Zoom, but by categories. So marketing would be trained together, R&D could be trained together, the print shop, because they're all in different locations.
Hmm.
So they need to make sure they're all on the same page so that in results, the product is shipped out properly.
Okay. I think that's a really good point is breaking, one communicating. So as you make updates or even as the application is updated with new features,
Right.
making sure folks understand what's coming and are communicated and trained properly. But then how you've gone even kind of deeper and said, hey, we're gonna break up the training by role. So we're not gonna distract the print shop with stuff that's relevant for the marketing team. We're not going to do all of that at once. We're going to take the time to communicate our process change or changes to the application and only focus on the stuff that actually matters to that particular group. So you're kind of selling them and training them all at once and not letting them get distracted by other stuff. Is that fair to say?
Yes, and also it's the accountability. So if
Mm-hmm.
I'm working with the print shop,
Yeah.
they have a list of things they have to go through to approve their artwork.
Mm-hmm.
And so it makes them accountable and it saves time and makes things much cleaner.
Okay, awesome. And then, so obviously all the stakeholders within Dyma are part of this. But then you had mentioned earlier about kind of the vendors. So you're doing private label stuff, and so you
Hmm.
have these vendor partners that you're working with, and kind of the folks that you're private labeling for. How have they responded? How have they kind of received this?
Very positive. It's very simple because when we're going through the approval process, and
Hmm.
if they need to look at the final approval before we actually produce it, we have our process is set up in stages, and so that particular stage would send an email to whichever vendor needs it, and with the attached proof for them to sign off on, and it comes back automatically once they've approved it, and then that goes to the library also once everything's been approved. Then
Awesome.
at that time, they can receive a link directly to the library folder, so they know exactly what we're printing.
Okay, excellent. And then you mentioned you're obviously sharing with them. Can you talk a little bit about the sharing process as well with the library, or um, you know,
Yeah, the library, it's very controllable.
okay,
So the vendors, if you send out a link, they can only see what you're sending them. If you click on those boxes where the artwork is, and then you go up and actually create a external link,
yep,
they can't see anything else in your library. They only can see what you send them. If you send a file out directly from the master folder,
hmm,
then they could see everything in that folder.
gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. Excellent. And you had mentioned that this, so it's a single source of truth. You've streamlined the process so that you're getting the artwork to the right folks to approve at the right time. Then it's coming into the library, and we've got kind of our hierarchy in terms of it's coming into a product folder. We've got active assets in one spot. All of the archive or supporting documents are not in other subfolders within that kind of master folder. And you mentioned that this took a while to set up. So can you talk a little bit about, not just the time, but suggestions or recommendations that you would have for folks as they're kind of embarking upon this type of setup?
Right. Yeah, it did take us a while
Okay.
to set it up. It was over 6 months. from start to finish, but we have over 1,000 assets in there.
Okay.
And the key is mapping it out.
Okay.
You have to map it out for what the needs are, and then you have to find a way to keep it consistent throughout the entire process.
Gotcha.
And you have to test it. That's another big part. So if you're master users, you use them as the test before you send it out live. And then you can get all the kinks out, and it'll be a smooth operating machine when you're ready to release it. And then you have training.
Okay.
So it is step by step, and you can't rush any of it. And you
Gotcha.
have to make sure that everything stays consistent.
Okay. And so it's
But
not just setting up the system that took that long. It was more so mapping out the process,
mhm,
doing all of that process change. And then to be clear, when you say assets, you're not talking about images. You're saying each one of these parent folders, there's over 1,000 items in here with all of their related subfolders and individual files and all of
correct.
that.
Oh,
So
there's
we're
over
talking tons of files.
5,000, over
Oh, I think
5,000.
you're over
I mean,
10,000. I checked.
35,000 in
Yeah.
there. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's massive amount,
Yep.
but it's very simple to set up, and then you just stay consistent, and you can do it with your eyes closed.
Okay. Awesome. Marci, this has been absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for joining us. For those of you that are listening, if you are looking for kind of a single source of truth and a place where you can store all of your assets for access to by your whole team or even your external stakeholders and partners, we would love to help you out, whether that's us here at RoboHead, or also we can make sure we get you connected to Marci with any questions that you might have. Thanks again for joining this session. Marci, thank you for being here. And we look forward to seeing you on the future sessions of Converge this year. So we've got some great stuff coming, and thanks again.